Good morning, children. Hearty welcome to all of you for today's session. Come, let's learn English. Today, in this session, I will be discussing a new lesson from our first flight textbook, Lesson 10, The Sermon at Benares. Children, I am not at all happy with you because many of you are not regular in writing the notes and sending it to Google Classroom. Many of you means almost half of the children are not regular with your notes. That means you are not taking studies seriously. Children, you have to cooperate with the teachers. Write the notes, read the lessons, and study it thoroughly. Okay. So, let's move on to our textbook. Our new lesson, Lesson 10, The Sermon at Benares. So as usual, before moving ahead with the lesson, let me give you the life and career of the writer. The Sermon at Benares. It has been penned by Betty Renshaw. So let's see the life and career of Betty Renshaw. Betty Renshaw was born on 3rd September 1927 in Mississippi. After graduating from Shannon High School, she went on to obtain her bachelor degree of arts from Mississippi College and later a Master of Arts from Mississippi University for Women. After that, she taught at the preschool level for several years. Betty had a huge heart for the Lord and served as a Sunday school teacher at the First Baptist Church. She made several mission trips with her husband, Joseph Henry Barber. She was dedicated to serving God and loving others. Now let's see her important books. Values and Voices, a College Reader. It's published in the year 1975. Second one, Writing with a Voice, Writing with a Voice, a Rhetoric and Handbook. These are her important books. She died on the same date on 3rd September 2013. Okay, children. Now, I am going to give you a brief introduction to the lesson. So, the title of our lesson, The Sermon at Benares. What do you mean by sermon? Sermon means religious or moral talk. Sermon means religious or moral talk. Okay, so let's see the introduction. The Sermon at Benares throws light upon the early life of Lord Buddha, who was originally born as a prince in the royal family. So I know you are very familiar with Lord Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. So, the Sermon at Benares throws light upon the early life of Lord Buddha, who was originally born as a prince in a royal family. On being exposed to the sufferings of the world, which he had earlier shielded from, he left his princehood and went in search of salvation, thus leaving all the worldly pleasures behind. So one day, what did he do? Lord Buddha or Gautama Buddha left his pleasures, or he left all the royal pleasures. And what did he do? He went in search of salvation. Upon attaining salvation or upon attaining spiritual awakening, he gave his first sermon in the city of Benares, hereby making a lady named Kisa Gautami realize that men are mortal and a wise person should not grieve at what is bound to happen, because it only enhances pain and suffering in his or her life. Okay, children. So now let's move on to a lesson. So let me read the first portion for you. Yes. Lesson 10, The Sermon at Benares. Gautama Buddha. He is believed to be lived in between 563 BC and 483 BC. Gautama Buddha began life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautama in northern India. At 12, he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures, and 4 years later he returned home to marry a princess. They had a son and lived for 10 years as befitted royalty. At about the age of 25, the prince, heretofore shielded from the sufferings of the world, while out hunting chanced upon a sick man, then an aged man, then a funeral procession, and finally a monk begging for alms. These sights so moved him that he at once went out into the world to seek enlightenment concerning the sorrows he had witnessed. So, listen, children. He wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree, where he vowed to stay until enlightenment came. Enlightened after 7 days, he renamed the tree the Bodhi tree, the tree of wisdom, and began to teach and to share his new understandings. At that point, he became known as the Buddha. That means the awakened or the enlightened. The Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benares, most holy of the dipping places on the river Ganges. That sermon has been preserved and is given here. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one inscrutable kind of suffering. Okay, children, let's see the first portion's explanation. Listen. Siddhartha Gautama. He began his life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautama in northern India. Okay, what do you mean by that, son and children? Yes, Gautama Buddha was born in a royal family in North India as a prince, and he was named Siddhartha Gautama. At 12, he was sent to a faraway place to study Hindu sacred scriptures. You know what's the meaning of sacred? Sacred means holy. Holy. So, holy books. At the age of 12, he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures. Scriptures, sacred writings of a religion. So, at the age of 12, he was sent away to study the Hindu books. And 4 years later, he returned home to marry a princess. Then, soon they both had a son, and they continued to live the royal life for about 10 years. Okay, so they had a son and lived for 10 years as befitted royalty. What's the meaning of befitted? Befitted means be appropriate for. Befitted means be appropriate for. So, what happened to them, children? Yes, they had a son and they lived for 10 years as befitted royalty. That is what is be appropriate for or a suitable royal life. They had a son and they lived for 10 years. It's suitable for a royal life, or they lived for 10 years royally. Then, at about the age of 25, the princess heretofore shielded from the sufferings of the world. So, what happened to him, children? At about the age of 25, the prince Gautama Buddha or Siddhartha Gautama, heretofore. What do you mean by heretofore, children? The meaning of heretofore means before now. Heretofore means before now. So, at the age of or till the age of 25, he was shielded, he was separated from the sufferings of the world. That means he didn't get the chance to see the unpleasant experiences until the age of 25. The royals were shielded from all the unpleasant experiences of the world because they are living in a royal or they are leading a royal life. So, they are shielded from all the unpleasant experiences of the world. So here, till the age of 25, he didn't experience the unpleasant world, or he didn't realize the unpleasant experiences of the world. Okay, but one day, accidentally, he met a sick person, an aged man, and a funeral procession, and also a monk looking for alms. What's the meaning of alms, children? Money or food given to poor people, or charity. So one day, accidentally, he met a sick person, an aged man, a funeral procession, and a monk looking for alms. A monk looking for his money or food. That is what is given to poor people. So these experiences acted as an eye-opener for him. So he left all the royalty behind to seek a higher sense of spiritual knowledge. Clear, children? Yes, once again I'll explain to you. Gautama Buddha began his life as a prince. What was his name then, children? Yes, Siddhartha Gautama. He was born in a royal family in northern India. At the age of 12, he was sent away for schooling in Hindu sacred scriptures. At the age of 12, he was sent for learning the Hindu holy books. And 4 years later, he returned home and he married a princess. Then soon after their marriage, they had a son, and they lived for 10 years as befitted royalty. They lived for 10 years experiencing all the pleasures of a royal life. Then, at the age of 25, while out hunting, chanced upon a sick man, then an aged man, then a funeral procession, and finally a monk begging for alms. So what happened to him at the age of 25, children? Yes, the royals were shielded from all the unpleasant experiences of the world. Yes. Am I right, children? Yes. The royals were shielded from all the unpleasant experiences of the world. But one day, when he was out for hunting, he got a chance to see a sick man, then an aged man, then a funeral procession, and finally a monk. He was begging for alms. Alms, I told you the meaning of alms is money or food given to poor people. So these sights so moved him that he at once went out into the world to seek enlightenment concerning the sorrows he had witnessed. So these experiences acted as an eye-opener for him. So he left all the royalty behind to seek a higher sense of spiritual knowledge. Clear, children? Okay, let's move on to the next portion. He wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree, where he vowed to stay until enlightenment came. Enlightened after 7 years, not 7 years, children, enlightened after 7 days, he renamed the tree the Bodhi tree, the tree of wisdom, and began to teach and to share his new understandings. At that point, he became known as the Buddha, the awakened or the enlightened. The Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benares, most holy of the dipping places on the river Ganges. That sermon has been preserved and is given here. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one inscrutable kind of suffering. Okay, so let's see some new words, children. See the meaning of wandered, you know. You are very familiar with the word wandered. Wandered means to move without a fixed course. To move without a fixed course means to move around the place without an aim, without a fixed course, without an aim, wandered here and there, without a purpose. Then vowed, vow, you know, V-O-W-A-D, vow, solemnly promise. Vow means solemnly promised. Then the next one, preached. What do you mean by preached? Deliver a religious address to an assembled group of people. Preached means deliver a religious address to an assembled group of people. Sermon, I told you the meaning of sermon. It's a religious talk, moral talk. Then holy, sacred, dipping places, bathing places. Bathing, dipping places. Inscrutable means something which cannot be understood. See the last line, inscrutable. It's given in your textbook, children. Something which cannot be understood. Dipping means bathing. Sermon, it's a religious talk. So, let's see the explanation. Gautama Buddha went in search of enlightenment. See the sentence. He wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree. So what did he do, children? Yes, not the days, children. 7 years. I think I have read it as 7 days. So Gautama Buddha went in search of enlightenment for about 7 years. So what did he do, children? Yes, he went in search for enlightenment for about 7 years before he finally came across a peepal tree and chose to sit under it till he became awakened. Did you get the sentence, children? See, here it is. He wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree, where he vowed to say, what do you mean by vow? He solemnly promised to do something or to do a specified thing. So, where he vowed to say, until enlightenment came. Where he vowed to stay until enlightenment came. He promised that he will not move from that place until enlightenment came. So, enlightened after 7 days, he renamed the tree the Bodhi tree. So, when he finally he attained salvation, or he got enlightenment after 7 days, he decided to rename the tree, or he decided to give the tree a title as Bodhi tree. What do you mean by Bodhi? Means the tree of wisdom. Bodhi tree means the tree of wisdom. And he himself came to be known as Buddha. Then what's the meaning of the word Buddha? Awakened. The Buddha means the awakened. Okay. So at that point, or at that time, or by that time, he became known as Sri Buddha, or the awakened, or the enlightened. The Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benares. So, first of all, what did he do? He began preaching his new realizations, his new understandings, and his first sermon was given in the city of Benares. As we know, the city of Benares is known to be sacred. What's the reason, children? Yes, the city of Benares, it's famous because it locates on the banks of the river Ganges. So the city of Benares is known to be sacred, known to be holy, as it locates on the banks of the river Ganges. So the first sermon he gave was preserved and is famous till date. It's given below as well. It gives a new perspective to man's unending sufferings. Here, so the Buddha preached his first sermon. He delivered his first sermon at the city of Benares, then the most holy of the dipping places on the river Ganges. Dipping places, bathing places. So the city of Benares is known to be sacred as it is located on the banks of the river Ganges. And the first sermon he gave was preserved and is famous till date. And it gives a new perspective, a new review to man's unending sufferings. So it reflects Buddha's wisdom about one inscrutable kind of suffering. What do you mean by inscrutable? Something which cannot be understood. So it reflects Buddha's wisdom about one thing, or the thing that we cannot understand. It's a kind of suffering. So unending suffering of man. So it gives a new perspective to man's unending sufferings. Clear? So next one. Kisa Gautama had an only son. Kisa Gautama had an only son. And he died. In her grief, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine. The people said, "She has lost her senses. The boy is dead." At length, Kisa Gautama met a man who replied to her request. "I cannot give thee medicine for thy child, but I know a physician who can." And the girl said, "Pray tell me, sir, who is it?" And the man replied, "Go to Sakya Muni, the Buddha." Kisa Godame repaired to the Buddha and cried, Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my boy. The Buddha answered, I want a handful of mustard seed. And when the girl in her joy promised to procure it, the Buddha added, the mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, husband, parent, or friend. Okay, children. So let's see the explanation of the first portion. Yes, Kisa Godame. So it talks about a lady. What's the name of that lady? It talks about a lady named Kisa Godame. Then what's the speciality of that lady, children? Whose only son had recently died. What happened to her? Kisa Godame had an only son and he died. In her grief, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine. So, what happened to her, children? Yes, struck with unending pain and sorrow, she took her son door to door, requesting for a wonder drug, requesting for a medicine to bring her child back to life. Understood, children? Yes, struck with unending pain and sorrow, she took the dead child, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine. And what's the reply of the people, children? Yes, she has lost her senses. The boy is dead. Her neighbors understood that the boy is dead. Understood that the boy was dead. But what did they comment, children? She has lost her senses. What do you mean by that, children? Yes, everyone thought that the lady, what happened to the lady? She had lost her ability to think clearly. She got mad. So, what did they say? She has lost her senses. The boy is dead. So, everybody realized that the boy was dead. And the lady, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine to revive the life of her dead child. Okay, at length Kisa Gautami met a man who replied to her request. At last, she came across a man. She met a man who couldn't offer her any medicine, but led her to Saukya Muni, Sakya, not a Saukya, Sakya Muni, the Buddha. So what did he do, children? Yes, she came across a man who replied to her request. I cannot give thee medicine for thy child. Have you seen that sentence, children? Yes, I cannot give thee, thy. Children, all these are archaic form, old form. So what's the meaning of thee means you, thy means your. So I cannot give you the medicine for your child, but I know a physician who can. So that is what is the reply given by the man. So at last Gautami or Kisa Gautami met a man who replied to her request. I cannot give you medicine for your child, but I know a physician who can. And the girl, pray tell me, sir, who is it? And the man replied, go to Sakyamuni in the Buddha. So filled with hope, the lady, she visited Gautama Buddha and begged him for a cure for her child. Did you get that, children? Yes, Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my boy. So in between, children, have you seen the sentence? Kisa Gautami repaired to the Buddha. What's the meaning of repaired? It's a stylistic use. Repaired means went to. Okay, it's given in your textbook. Kisa Gautami went to the Buddha and cried. She requested, Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my boy. Okay, so let's move on to the next portion. Buddha answered. The Buddha answered. What did he do? I want a handful of mustard seed. And when the girl in her joy promised to procure it, the Buddha added, the mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, husband, parent, or friend. So what's going on there, children? Yes. Buddha answered, I want a handful of mustard seed. You know what is mustard. So when the girl in her joy, so what did she do? She became very happy. The girl or the lady, Kisa Gautami, promised to procure it. But Buddha added one more thing. Yes, there is one more condition. What is that condition? There is one condition, not one more condition, children. Yes, he added means he gave one condition. Yes, the mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, or no one has lost a husband, or no one has lost a parent or a friend. Okay, children. So let's move on to the next portion. Yes, poor Kisa Godami and now went from house to house, and the people pitied her and said, "Here is mustard seed, take it." But when she asked, "Did a son or daughter, a father or mother die in your family?" they answered her, "Alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our deepest grief. And there was no house, but some beloved one had died in it." So, what is going on there, children? Yes, once again, Kisa Godami went from door to door. For what, children? In order to collect mustard seeds. She was looking for mustard seeds. Many had mustard seeds to offer, but none of them could fulfill Lord Buddha's condition. What was his condition, children? Yes, he asked her to take mustard seed from a house where no one has lost a child, no one has lost a husband, no one has lost a parent or a friend. So many had offered her mustard seeds, but no one of them could fulfill the Lord Buddha's condition of having seen no deaths in the family. So, upon being asked, the people requested her not to remind them of their deepest griefs. Unfortunately, she couldn't find a suitable home to get mustard seeds for his son. Did you understand, children? Yes. Say, what's the reply given by the neighbors? They answered her, "Alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our deepest griefs." So, they requested her not to remind them of their deepest griefs. So from this we understood that unfortunately she couldn't find a suitable home to get mustard seeds for her son. Okay, children. Yes, let's move on to the next portion. Kisa Gautami became weary and hopeless and sat down at the wayside watching the lights of the city as they flickered up and were extinguished again. At last, the darkness of the night reigned everywhere, and she considered the fate of men, that their lives flicker up and are extinguished again. And she thought to herself, "How selfish am I in my grief? Death is common to all. Yet, in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads him to immortality who has surrendered all selfishness." So, what's going on there, children? Yes, all hope was lost for Kisa. All hope was lost for Kisa Gautami. What happened to her, children? Yes, Kisa Gautami became weary and hopeless. She became very tired. Weary means tired. Kisa Gautami became very tired and hopeless and sat down at the wayside. Wayside means roadside, watching the lights of the city as they flickered up and were extinguished again. Then what do you mean by flickered? Shone unsteadily. The past tense of shine, shone, S-H-O-N-A, shone unsteadily, and were extinguished again, goes to N, shining. So it's flickered and extinguished. Flickered, its opposite is extinguished. Flickered means shone unsteadily, extinguished means goes to N, shining. So what's going on there, children? Yes, Kisa Gautami, she became very tired and hopeless and sat down at the roadside watching the lights of the city. The lights of the city, they flickered up and were extinguished again. At last, the darkness of the night reigned everywhere. At last, the darkness of the night. What happened to her, children? Yes, she became very tired and she found herself in a place in the city where full of darkness. There was just darkness all around. Okay, the city lights were blinking and observed them till there was just darkness all around. After deep reflection, she realized something. What did she realize, children? Yes, she realized that man's fate was just like these city lights that flicker and extinguish repeatedly. The cycle of birth and death is nature's way of working. Suddenly she became conscious as to how selfish she had been in her sorrow, and that one who was born must rest eternally, because men are mortal, and the ones that are immortals are covered a path free from all worldly pleasures. So what is going on there, children? Yes, she realized something. She considered the fate of men, that their lives flicker up and extinguished again. So she thought to herself, how selfish am I in my grief? What was her grief, children? Yes, she lost her one and only son. So how selfish am I in my grief? Death is common to all. In this valley of desolation, there is a path. What's the meaning of desolation, children? Desolation means great unhappiness. Desolation means great unhappiness. So she realized that in this valley of desolation, in this valley of great unhappiness, there is a path, there is a way that leads him to immortality. What do you mean by immortality? The ability to live forever. So, immortality, who has surrendered all selfishness. So, what is going on there, children? I'll give you the explanation once again. Suddenly, she became conscious that she was so selfish. She had been in her sorrow. She was so selfish. She had been in her sorrow, and that time she thought selfishly. No one who was born must rest. Yes, the one who was born must rest eternally. Once we take the birth, we have to die. Men are mortal. Men are mortal means we have to die. We are not immortal. Men are mortal. The ones that are immortals have covered a path free from all worldly pressures. So death is common to all. So she realized the fact that death is common to all. In this valley of desolation, I told you the meaning great unhappiness. In the valley of desolation, there is a path that leads the man to immortality, the ability to live forever, immortality, who has surrendered all selfishness. So, we have to surrender. We have to throw away all our selfishness. Then we will get the path of immortality. Because death is common to all the people. Man or men is mortal. So the ones that are mortals are covered a path free from all worldly pleasures. So one day we have to reject, or one day we have to leave all the worldly pleasures, and we will be sent to the world of God. So we have to be free from all worldly pleasures. When it will be, children? Yes, when we are ready to die. That is what is when we are ready to go to the world of God. So, did you get the sentence, children? How selfish am I in grief? Death is common to all. Yet in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads men to immortality. There, we have to surrender all our selfishness. Clear? Okay, the Buddha said, the life of mortals in this world is not any means by those that have been born can avoid dying. After reaching old age, there is death. Of such a nature are living beings. As ripe fruits are early in danger of falling, so mortals, when born, are always in danger of death. As all earthen vessels made by the potter end in being broken, so is the life of mortals. Both young and adult, both those who are fools and those who are wise, all fall into the power of death. All are subject to death. So here in this paragraph, Sri Buddha gives a lot of examples to realize man. So in order to realize, or in order to make something to understand, here in this paragraph, Sri Buddha, he gave a sermon. So what is it, children? Yes, Buddha said, the life of mortals in this world is troubled and brief and combined with pain. So according to Buddha, the life of mortals is troubled because they have not made a peace with the fact that one who is born must rest eternally. That is what is. There is no way a living being can avoid facing death. Did you get the sentence, children? Yes, the Buddha said, the life of mortals or the life of human beings in this world is not any means by which those who have not been born can avoid dying. What do you mean by that, children? According to Lord Buddha, the life of mortals is troubled because they have not made a peace with the fact that one who is born must rest eternally. So, once we born, we have to die one day. There is no way a living being can avoid facing death. See, here are the examples. It will give you the explanation of the sentence that's explained earlier. So, the first example, as ripe fruits are early in danger of falling. So, what's the case of a ripe fruit? Just like a ripe fruit, it's more prone to falling. And what about an aged mortal? Is bound to die. Just like all earthen vessels break at some point, so do men. So here are the three example children. Yes, ripe fruits, what will be their condition? Yes, as ripe fruits are early in danger of falling. So mortals, when born, are always in danger of death. Mortals means human beings. When born, they are always in danger of death. And at the same case as all earthen vessels made by the potter end in being broken. See, potter, he has made a lot of vessels. And what about the end position children? Yes, the potter end in being broken. All the earthen vessels made by the potter, it will end in being broken. So is the life of the mortals, both young and adult, or fools and wise, all fall into the power of death. All are subject to death. All are likely to be affected with death. Understood children? See, young people or adult people, fools, wise, all of them, all fall into the power of death. All are likely to be affected with the trouble of death. Understood? Okay children. So let's move on to the next portion. Of those who overcome by death depart from life, a father cannot save his son, nor kinsmen their relations. Mark, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, one by one mortals are carried off like an ox that is led to the slaughter. So the world is afflicted with a death and decay. Therefore, the wise do not grieve, knowing the terms of the world. So let me give you the meaning of some words, children. Kinsman, Kinsmen. What do you mean by kinsman? See, here it is in the second line. Of course, who overcome by death depart from life. A father cannot save his son, nor kinsmen their relations. Kinsman means a man who is one of a person's blood relations. Kinsman means a person who is one of a person's blood relations. Lamenting, expressing a regret or disappointment about something. Expressing regret or disappointment about something. Slaughter, what it is. Killing of animals for food. Slaughter. Killing of animals for food. Then afflicted with, it's given in your textbook. Afflicted with means affected by suffering, disease or pain. So let's see the explanation, children. Yes, the only way death works is by withdrawing the person from the living world. What do you mean by that, Sana, children? Yes, the only way death works is by withdrawing the person from the living world. That is, the person ceases to exist in this world. No one has control over death. Neither a father can save his son, nor a kinsman his relative. Just like an ox is taken to the slaughterhouse to be killed, so does death do with the mortals, leaving none behind. So we can say, the one who knows this truth and doesn't grieve at his loss is the one who has been called wise by Lord Buddha. So what's going on in that paragraph, children? Yes, of course. Who overcome by death depart from life. A father cannot save his son, nor kinsmen their relations. See, relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply. One by one mortals are carried off like an ox that is led to the slaughter. So the world is affected with the death. The world is affected, or the world is afflicted with the death and decay. Therefore, the wise do not grieve, knowing the terms of the world. So what should we do, children? We should be wise enough. We should not grieve, or we should not lament our relatives. See, the relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply. What's the reason? Because one by one mortals are carried off like an ox that is led to the slaughter. So the world is afflicted, or that is what is the rule of the world. The world is afflicted with death and decay. The wise should not grieve. Therefore, or according to Buddha, wise people, they do not grieve. They know the terms of the world. So what is the terms of the world? Yes, one by one, all the human beings will die one day. The mortals are carried one by one like an ox that is led to the slaughter. So once we born, we have to die one day. Did you understand, children? So once again, children, I'll give you the explanation of that paragraph. The only way death works is by withdrawing the person from the living world. That is, a person ceases to exist in this world. No one has control over death. Neither a father can save his son, nor a kinsman his relative. Just like an ox is taken to the slaughterhouse to be killed, so does death do with mortals, leaving none behind. So, the one who knows this truth, or the one who knows the term of the world, and doesn't grieve at his loss, that is the one who has been called wise by Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha says that Lord Buddha says that the one who knows this truth, or the one who knows the terms of the world, and one who doesn't grieve at his loss, is the one who has been called wise by Lord Buddha. Understood, children? Okay, so let's move on to the concluding paragraph. Not from weeping and not from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. On the contrary, his pain will be the greater and his body will suffer. He will make himself sick and pale, yet the dead are not saved by his lamentation. He who seeks peace should draw out the arrow of lamentation and complaint and grief. He who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome composed will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. So here are the words of Lord Buddha. According to Lord Buddha, one should not grieve, one should not weep, or one should not be miserable at something which is bound to happen, for it will keep man away from obtaining peace of mind. See, and not from weeping and not from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. We can't attain peace of mind if we weep or if we grieve at something which is bound to happen. Did you understand, children? Yes, we should obtain peace of mind. By how, children? Or we can obtain peace of mind if we should not grieve, or if we should not weep, or if we should not be miserable at something which is bound to happen. Otherwise, it will keep man away from obtaining peace of mind. Then what will be the result, children? His pain will be greater and his body will suffer. He will make himself sick and pale. The dead are not saved by his lamentation. What is the meaning of that sentence, children? Yes, it is very important to understand. We must move the past feelings like sorrow and grief. Or we want to forget. We want to leave the sorrow and the grief that happened in our life. Okay, children, so once again, and not from weeping and not from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. We will not get peace of mind if we weep over our miseries. If we weep over our miseries, what will be the result? That pain will be the greater and it will affect our body. Then he will make himself sick and pale. Yet the dead are not saved by his lamentation. The dead are not saved. The dead are not coming back to their life by his lamentation. So he who seeks peace should draw out the arrow of lamentation, complaint and grief. So if we want peace, we have to throw away lamentation. We have to throw away our complaints. We have to throw away our grief. Then what would be the result, children? Yes, he who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. So in this paragraph, Lord Buddha says that we should not cry or we should not weep over the miseries that happened in our lives. So what we would do, children? Yes, we have to throw out the arrow of lamentation or complaint or grief. So what would be the result? Yes, those who have thrown out the arrow of lamentation and complaint, they would be blessed or they would become free from sorrow. Understood, children? So according to Lord Buddha, one should not grieve or one should not weep or one should not be miserable at something which is bound to happen, for it will keep man away from obtaining peace of mind. It will only multiply the pain and sufferings, thus leading to physical weakness. And moreover, no amount of grief would bring back the dead. Even if we lamented a lot, even if we cried a lot, no one would bring back the dead. Even God cannot bring back the dead. What's the reason, children? So it's very important to understand that one must not move past the feelings like sorrow, grief, as it is the only way that leads to the path of salvation. What do you mean by salvation, children? Yes, salvation means deliverance or redemption, or we can say salvation means free from all sins and its consequences. So the last paragraph, it's valuable, children. You can follow in your life itself. So what should you do, children? In order to attain peace of mind, we should not weep over the miseries happened in our life. We have to throw away our lamentation, our complaint and grief. So if we have thrown it out, we would be blessed, and at the same time we can attain peace of mind. We would be free from sorrow. Understood? See the last sentence, children. He who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed of will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. So if we have thrown out our lamentation or our complaint or our grief, then our life will be filled with peace of mind. Our life will be free from sorrow and we will be blessed. Okay, so children, here comes an end of our lesson. Read the lesson thoroughly. It's a very good lesson. It's very interesting, children. So you can read it again and again and attain the moral values. Procure it, and you have to imbibe the moral values and keep it in your life, children. Okay, so let's conclude the portion. Thank you for your cooperation, children.